So, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Jin, and I am representing MistTrack and SlowMist today. And I'm thrilled to be your host and provide some insightful insight into our AMS session in collaboration with AMLBot today. So, what we're doing today is we're diving deep into the intricate world of blockchain investigations with the topic Lost Crypto Behind the Scenes of Blockchain Investigations. So let's do a couple of housekeeping notes. First, I'd like to give a shout out to our AMLBot partner for handling the design and aesthetics for this event. Um, and then from AMLBot today, we have AJ, our guest speaker. AJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what AMLBot is, and then I'll introduce myself and MistTrack afterwards.
Sure. Hello, everyone. That took almost as long as the exchanges take to get back to us with information. Sorry to keep you all waiting. This is AJ. I'm the head of investigations at AMLBot. AMLBot specializes in compliance solutions for individuals and businesses in the crypto space. In my role, I oversee both public and private investigations, handling on chain and OSINT inquiries, and offering recovery consulting. I'm here today to answer your questions and discuss all things related to compliance and investigations in cryptosphere. Please feel free to ask me anything.
All right, thank you for the introduction. So, just a little quick note, everybody. Today, we're gonna do a little bit more laxed. So, we're just gonna let the conversation flow. And a little bit of background about myself. My name is Jin, and I've been with the MistTrack team for almost a year and a half, and the SlowMist team for almost 2 years. So, a little background about MistTrack and what SlowMist does. SlowMist is our parent company. We're a blockchain security firm. So we specialize in everything related to Web3 security and even actually Web2 security, like smart contract audits for exchanges, wallets, you name it. Anything related to blockchain security, we're there. And the other aspect, which is uh, our company today, like MistTrack, we're also a blockchain investigation firm. And then we kind of like created MistTrack originally just because all these projects were getting hacked, and we were kind of like they were reaching out to us because we were the security experts, and then we were also helping them with the investigation on where the funds were going next. But because like not everybody, there was these scams are getting more prevalent. Not everybody can afford these fees, so we kind of created MistTrack as a kind of like a crypto compliance platform for anybody to just get access to, so they can even conduct their own investigations. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is like AJ, like in your own words, like how would you describe like blockchain investigation?
Well, blockchain investigations involve tracking and analyzing transactions on a blockchain to uncover and verify details about participants, asset movements. Because we all know that all blockchain transactions are completely anonymous. So we try to trace the movement of funds to licensed services, and from there we can request more information regarding who actually owns those accounts. And investigations like these are basically crucial for ensuring transparency, security, and compliance in the cryptocurrency space. It helps to detect illicit activities like fraud, money laundering, and it helps promote trust and legitimacy in the blockchain ecosystem. We cannot, if a lot of people are getting scammed all the time, then why would new investors join the space?
Yeah, thank you. I think that's pretty much like what I would have said too. One thing I would like to add is like essentially, if you think about blockchain checks, like anything online, like you always leave a digital footprint. It's the same thing with like blockchain. There's always some type of digital
Yeah.
footprints. Now there are definitely cases where like they make it super complicated to track the funds, and sometimes it's almost nearly impossible. So let's learn a little bit more about AML bot. Like, what is um, how does one like kind of like initiate a blockchain investigation with you guys? Like, what are the first steps involved?
Okay, so whenever a victim approaches approaches us, the first step is that we look at the evidence, we try to understand the situation, and we conduct a pre investigation. The pre investigation is completely free. The purpose of the pre investigation is basically to assess if we can actually help the victim or not. Like Gian, you understand that there are cases wherein we cannot really do anything. Certain
Mm-hmm.
mixers wherein we don't have the demixing capabilities, or where it's impossible to pursue the funds. So the purpose of this pre-investigation is before the victim makes a financial commitment with us, we ensure that we can
Mm-hmm.
actually help him, so that we do not want to victimize him further. We do not want him to think that now I've paid AMLBot, but now they are saying that the funds are we cannot pursue the funds. So to avoid that sort of situation, we conduct this pre-investigation. Once that is done, we tell the victim what all services we can provide to him. Normally, it's investigation and recovery support. Recovery support would mean liaising with exchanges, with the law enforcement, to basically send information requests to exchanges, and basically interfacing between the victim, the law enforcement, and the exchanges to help recover the funds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's actually something very similar to what we do here at MistTrack too. A lot of times there's our public investigations where we just conduct investigations like for like major hacks and whatnot. Like on our MistTrack account, we actually have a malicious address alert. So these are all like major funds like the Ronin hack, the Harmony Bridge hack,
Mhm.
and then where we just post alerts on where these funds are
Mhm.
going. And the other one is more of the kind of like the personal ones. And like you mentioned yourself, like there's no way we can help everyone just because the amount that's being scammed
Mhm.
is it varies from person to person, and then also the I guess like the technical difficulties we have with like law enforcement too sometimes,
Mhm.
because people need to understand there's really like two steps to a blockchain investigation.
Mhm.
There is the actual tracking, which is what we do, and then there's the law enforcement portion,
Mhm.
and that's really like something we have no control of. I mean, like recently, like we have a lot of cases where it's like, yeah, even though we were able to track the funds to exchange, the exchanges don't release the funds until like actually law enforcement reaches out to them, and then that's where it's kind of like it makes it very difficult on our end to actually help like some of the victims.
Correct. I mean, I wish to ask, what is your customer onboarding process? I mean, what sort of cases do you guys generally accept?
So for us, because like you said, we have this is at the end of the day, this is a business. We try to help as many people as we can. So personally, like what I do on my end is like I like reply to every single case that come in, regardless of the amount. I would just give them like some basic information, like, hey, this is where your funds are right now, or if it's been sent to exchange. But unfortunately, because the amount that like you lost, it really doesn't make any sense to bring us on board because it would probably cost more for to hire us to recover what you lost. So at the end of the day, like we do assessment of every transaction, every submission that comes in, and then from there, I will reply to every single submission.
Great. I mean, that's similar to what we also do. A lot of times it actually even ends up in bad reviews, because people tell us, if somebody came up to us with, $5,000 stolen or $10,000 stolen, and we just tell them that,
Mhm.
it's not worth pursuing those funds. And they think that, maybe because we want to charge more, that's why we are discouraging them. But as you
Mhm.
understand, that's not always the case. A lot of times, the victim will have to eventually engage a lawyer, right,
Mhm.
to initiate recovery through the exchange or through the law enforcement if there has been a seizure warrant by the law
Right.
enforcement. And if you've lost $5,000, the lawyer will charge you probably $8,000 to $10,000 to pursue those funds. So,
Exactly.
how does it
Exactly.
make sense? We are just
Yeah.
trying to help you out by telling you that you may end up losing even more money by pursuing
Yeah,
this activity.
sometimes they just don't like
Yeah.
our answers, even though like that's just how things
Yeah.
are. Um, for example, like they want us to. We had a couple incidents where it's like they want us to like help recover the funds. I was like, cool, yeah. Like they were already on board. Like we were about to sign, and they're like, oh, I was like, oh, you guys know you have to report
Mhm.
this to a law enforcement agency because at the end of the day, the exchanges they don't release funds unless it's to a law enforcement
Mhm.
agency. And they're like, oh, okay. So then they're like, oh, they didn't want to proceed
Yeah.
forward. Or like sometimes where it's like they can't hear back from their local law enforcement agencies or just because like they live in a small town or something
Mhm.
like that. And it kind of like I feel kind of bad for the client because like you know exactly where the funds
Mm.
are, like we can track it everything. We know it's at this exchange, but there's nothing they can do because that it's like we you can't move forward.
Yeah, correct. And what I have sort of understood, when I got into the investigations earlier, I used to think that if the victim is not reporting the crime, maybe the funds
Mm-hmm.
were obtained because of illegal activity, right? Because what reason
Right.
would he have not to go to the law enforcement? But lately, I've realized that approximately 70 to 75% of these scams are actually romance scams, right? And this is what discourages the victim to actually report it to law enforcement because they
Mm-hmm.
are afraid now that their family will find out what will happen, you
Right.
know and that
Right.
is what makes them susceptible to these sort of scams because the perpetrator also understands that this person is not going to report it. That's how
Right.
they become a target in first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't think of that until you brought it up. I was like, yeah, that's true. Like we actually had a couple cases where like people they were there was like oh like they met someone online
Mhm.
or like they were saying they were claiming they were like lovers, so he sent them money and then like never heard from them again. You're right. It does take a lot to like actually go to like law enforcement agency and kind of like report that because you're kind of like you're very embarrassed by
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah, because they'll be asking you questions and they'll be making follow-up calls to your house and if you're married then your wife would have to know that there is a case that has been registered and what all happened, and it just becomes very
Hmm.
difficult for victims of these crimes to actually open up about what happened because the money is
Yeah.
already stolen, but now it will have an impact on their relationships as well. So I think that
Right.
is another aspect that I'm learning more and more about. But we make
Yeah.
it a practice that whenever a victim comes to us, our first instruction is to file a police report. I see a lot of
Hmm.
so-called recovery companies who actually claim that they can recover funds without law enforcement or
No,
activity.
that's a
And
scam.
that
That's a scam right
this
there.
is I want to use this opportunity and declare that any company that's claiming this is a scam and they are going to scam you again.
Yep.
We cannot
You hear that,
recover
guys?
funds without the involvement of law enforcement and the judiciary.
Hmm. Yeah, that's like the main. If you don't take and if you don't remember anything from this AMA, just remember that
Yeah.
anybody claiming they can guarantee to get back your funds, that is a scam. And like since we're talking about scams, let's talk about like some of all the like the recent scams, all these like phishing
Mhm.
attacks, and all these like for us on our SlowMist account, we try to like hey post as many like information about all the like the most recent
Mhm.
scams as possible because I think that's like kind of like the best way for like this community to grow at least because every day there's new users coming in and then like so that's like I don't kind of like a fresh meat for all these like
Yeah.
scammers because they're still learning about like all these new protocols. They don't know about like all these signing signatures that all you got to do is like really like 2 clicks and then all your funds are
Yeah.
gone. Because like if you think about like in like the Web 2 aspect, it used to be about oh people collecting your personal information.
Mhm.
There's another next step, but now you're talking about like Web 3, and then all it takes is like hey I'll connect to MetaMask, and then I approve it, and now like you look at your account, and then all your funds are gone.
Yeah. I mean, people have to understand that, at the end of the day, this is these are financial transactions as well. It is
Yeah.
similar to what you do with your fiat. If you have funds in your
Mhm.
bank account, you're not going to give it to a stranger to invest, right? Then
Mhm.
why do you give your crypto to a stranger, a new investment platform to invest? It is
Mhm.
always better that you use that money and you invest in blue chip cryptos. Buy BTC yourself, buy Ethereum yourself. Nobody can. You have to understand, if the market is not in a bull run, then how can an investment platform give you 110 or even 20%, 20% returns? It's just not possible. It's common sense.
Mhm. I think it's just like how deceptive like this space is sometimes too. When I mean, I'll admit it. When I first came in, I actually fell for a scam. It wasn't like a lot of a lot of funds, but it was enough to hurt.
Mhm.
And then that's where I kind of like, oh, I wanted to like dive down this path. I want to like learn about these investigations. And then I think it's because like when new like the way that a lot of new users are attracted is because oh they think of like it's easy money, and then they hear things like oh like all these free airdrops,
Mhm.
so oh they're like oh can let me collect this, let me collect that,
But
and then next thing they know it's like all their funds are gone because they don't know how easy it
yeah.
is to actually like for people to steal funds with like crypto.
But you have to tell me, did you investigate your own case or not?
Uh, I did. I try. That's actually another part too. I try like reaching out to the local authorities at the time, and they just there was no help at all.
Mhm. Yeah, I can
But you know,
understand.
lesson learned.
Right.
Yeah. What about yourself? Well, like what made you want to get into this?
Well, so I started in this industry with being a listing consultant. I
Hmm.
advised a lot of new startups in this space and helped them get listed on various exchanges. And it was during the ICO wave, so you understand that a lot of, by a lot I mean 80 to 85% of projects at that time, they were looking to conduct a scam right from the start. So slowly and slowly I started learning more about how these projects can the funds can be traced, and some justice could be served. And at that time, I'm talking about 6 to 7 years ago, and at that
Hmm.
time there were
Oh, that was like brand
yeah,
new.
yeah, yeah. So we didn't have all these tools, we didn't have
Hmm.
clustering, we didn't have labeling, so it was all a shot in the dark. But 2 3 years back, I found out that there are advanced tools now, and it's tracing and uh, recovering of funds is actually possible. So I started learning a bit.
Hmm.
I got trained in some of the best tools in the industry, and slowly it happened.
You're talking about us, right? You're talking about us, right? Best tools in the industry.
Us and yourself, both of us.
Yes, 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 yes.
So
Um, yeah. What other tools do you guys use?
we do use, you understand that you need various tools, because every
Hmm.
tool
Definitely.
focus on a different demographic, on a different would have
Hmm.
different geographical services identified. So we use our own
Hmm.
tool, we use Crystal from time to time, and we also use Chainalysis.
Hmm. Yeah, that's like very similar to us, just because, like you said, it's
And I'm sorry,
I just
we
want
are
to like,
using SlowMist as well now,
yep, thank
and it's a
you.
big help for services with Chinese background. I think you guys have identified a lot of Asian services, so
Hmm.
a lot of time we
Yep.
are able to solve cases just because we use SlowMist. But
Right.
just a question, unrelated question: why is SlowMist? Why not QuickMist?
No, well, slow miss. The name actually, slow miss, is like it's a direct translation of like this Chinese meaning that's like peace and tranquil.
Oh, okay.
Like that's the American when you translate it, it means like slow miss, but like the original Chinese name, it's called like Mang Wu. It actually means like peace and tranquil.
Ah, okay. Yeah, a lot of
Yeah, so
beautiful
like it's like the
things.
peace of mind for your projects.
I feel a lot of beautiful things are lost in translations.
I know, I know. It's the meanings that doesn't like really carry over.
Yeah, it's still a cool name.
I
Yeah,
just no, I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say something, but I completely forgot. Um, it's still early for me over here. Um, yeah, give me one
sure, sure.
second. So yeah, what were we talking about? We were talking about the different
We have to,
different
yeah,
tools
basically
that we
covering
use.
the scams that are happening in the crypto space.
Right,
Yeah, and
right.
how we both got
So like
involved in this industry.
yeah, it's because like when we started MistTrack, like obviously there's like there's our API, which is like all our database,
Hmm.
and then that's like the main thing I think that helps for like bigger projects and whatnot. And then for the like the smaller victims that like we try to make our tool as easy as possible to
Hmm.
use. So all they literally have to do is just like, hey, input an address, and then it shows you all the transactions on where it's going. And then
Hmm.
like if they want to see where the funds are sent next, all they got to click on it, and then like they kind of like trace it to an exchange. So that's why for us at least, we want to keep it as simple as possible. And like you mentioned earlier, like it's good to use multiple tools because we obviously like we're our main company is based in Asia, so we have a lot of connections in
Hmm.
Asia. But because crypto is a very global thing, you want to have more partners too because then you cover more spaces.
Right.
Because there's like a lot of all these like hackers that they're using like these like crazy exchanges all over the
Hmm.
world.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are also doing similar to what you guys are doing. We at AMLBot, we feel that a lot of the good tools in right now in the industry, they are not really targeted towards the common Joe. They are specialized tools for
Mm-hmm.
investigators, private investigators, for law enforcement professionals who are trained, by the
Mm-hmm.
way. And but for victims, like I told earlier, who lost less than $5,000 or $10,000, for them it does not make sense to engage a firm like us. And even a lot of times, the law enforcement is also not willing to help them because they tend to
Yeah.
prioritize cases depending on the amount that has been stolen. So we feel
Right.
that there is a gap in the industry right now. We want to create
Mm-hmm.
an affordable solution, possibly
Mm-hmm.
that's pay per search, so that the common Joe who got scammed, he can just log into a tool and he can search where his funds went. Just do a preliminary trace. You do not
Right.
require a specific skill set. If the funds went from point A to point B, which could be a license service, so you don't have to pay 2,000, 5,000, $10,000 for that person. It makes a lot of sense. So our
Mm-hmm.
perspective is that for all those people, there should be automated tracing, there should be easy solutions, so that they don't have to spend a bomb on these services. And it also sort of
Mm-hmm.
encourages them to not get scammed.
Right. And the other thing is like sometimes like law enforcement they don't take these cases because they don't really know what they're looking at. I mean like as much as like we like chain analysis does things differently like but what I think they are doing well is because they are working with like law enforcement agencies and like teaching them like how these things work because at the end of the day like it's a lot of these like small towns they don't know what crypto is, they
Yeah,
don't know how these investigations work.
correct.
So it's hard for them to trust like someone coming in. It's like, hey, like we're the expert here. This is what happened. But then like they have to obviously conduct their own investigation too.
Right. I mean, we at the end of the day, we have to understand that law enforcement globally is already understaffed, right? And crypto cases
Definitely.
is just a subset of crime. It is just a very, I have to say, a smaller subset. So if you compare it with fiat specifically, so
Mm-hmm.
even though companies like Chainalysis, TRM Labs, etc., are doing good work training the law enforcement professionals, it's yet to be seen, how much time
Mm.
these professionals would fully, give to crypto investigations, because there are challenges. They are understaffed already. They have to deal with other sort of crimes as well. So
Right.
until and unless every county starts creating specific departments for crypto related cases, I think it's going to be a
Mhm.
challenge. I think the correct approach, the way I see us being a part of this ecosystem, is that a lot of times people hire private detectives, private investigators
Mhm.
for various type of cases they are involved in. Why do they do that? Law enforcement is obviously already there, willing to help them, but they hire private investigators because they are looking for quick service. They understand that law enforcement will take its time, but a private investigator would focus only on their case specifically, and would help supplement the investigation that is being carried by the law enforcement. So I think that our we tend to uh, we are present in the ecosystem in the same capacity. We are not there to replace law enforcement investigators. We are there to supplement
Right.
them. They have their own
Right.
usage, they have their own importance, and we have our own importance.
Mhm.
We are not, a lot of times I see law enforcement officers discouraging some victims, saying that you shouldn't have gone to an investigation firm. They could probably be a scam, but not all firms are scams. Law
Mhm.
enforcement should find a way to license to work with us, to license us, so that there are better
Mhm.
synergies.
Right. Yeah, because that will like make too much sense for them to work. Because I feel like a lot of times, my background is actually in law enforcement. A lot of times, it's a very proactive
Mhm.
situation. I mean, reactive situation. They're not very proactive on certain things, where it's like they would only go do something where it's like if like majority of their cases are crypto related, that's the only time they will maybe like create like a department for that.
Yeah, and
Because like you said, like right now they're already short staffed. Most places are short
yeah.
staffed.
And we have to understand, it's not even about their willingness to take up a case. A lot of times they need resources, they need on-chain analysis tools, they need OSINT tools to conduct a fair
Mm-hmm.
investigation. And unlike us, they
Mm-hmm.
have to go through a hierarchy, to
Right.
ask for resources, budgets, allocations they have to cater to. And a lot of times it does not come through on time.
Yeah.
So
That's.
even if you are pursuing a $3 million case, but even if you have all the motivation as a law enforcement officer to do it,
Mm-hmm.
it if you don't have
They still
resources,
need
what
the
are you going to
resources.
do?
Yeah. It's funny you brought that up because I remember like recently one of our a victim like they finally actually got in touch with the law enforcement and then like they sent me all these like information. I was like, where are you guys looking? I sent you the document. Like this, just follow the document. And then like they just decided to do their own investigation. And then they were using like Etherscan, but you know how like not everything is labeled there.
Yeah.
Like that's why it's important like for our database for addresses to be labeled. And they were saying like, oh, it's ended up here. I was like, no, it's not. Just look at the report.
Yeah.
Like if you need access to like our tool, like I don't mind just giving you like a key that you guys can access and see like where the funds are actually
Yeah.
sent. Like don't just use Etherscans because there's so many different addresses that's not labeled. You're gonna get lost doing an investigation that way.
Right. I mean, Etherscan is, a very primitive. It's not meant for investigations. Let's be honest,
Right, right.
an explorer is just meant to verify a transaction, to view and verify a transaction. It's not meant to investigate. An explorer does not grant you visualization capabilities, clustering capabilities, or
Mm-hmm.
labeling capabilities. A lot of that happens behind the scenes that a tool company does. So that's why it's not always beneficial to use explorers like Etherscan or TronScan.
Mm-hmm. We got a request. I'm gonna see if Hannah has any questions. Is that okay
Yeah,
with
yeah,
you?
sure.
Okay, give me 1 second. Hannah, you got access. You got a question? Hello. Okay. Well, she's on mute. So I guess we'll just like right now. I think honestly, the hardest task I think personally is actually getting law enforcement to help. So like, if there's a way we can like not even like universally, but like within a country where they can like create like a system that like everybody can follow, that would be perfect because then it will make us so much easier.
I think there are many challenges to that. A lot of
Mhm.
jurisdictions, laws are different jurisdictions wise. What could be
Yeah.
attributed as a crime in one country or even in one county might not be a crime in another one. Uh, the
Hmm.
crypto space is decentralized, so I think uh, laws have to be built accordingly. You need to form a
Hmm.
uniform code globally, at least I think so,
Hmm.
for all crypto related crimes, so that there is no confusion in the mind of law enforcement regarding how to proceed or what their rights are. A lot of times what we
Hmm.
see is somebody who is actually a citizen of US. He's traveling in Dubai. He got scammed in Dubai. Now his main confusion is where should he file a report and what is the jurisdiction
Yeah.
of the crime actually. Even the law enforcement is
Right.
not clear where should he file a report. And the US police would say that he was not in the country at that time, so maybe it's
Right.
not in our jurisdiction. The Dubai police will say that he's not one of our citizens, so we cannot take up that case. So I think
Hmm.
a uniform code needs to be there for all crypto related crimes, and there should be a centralized blockchain based system wherein there
Hmm.
should be all the stakeholders should be there. And I think we need to identify the right stakeholders. It should be the law
Hmm.
enforcement, it should be banks, it should be services, both DeFi and CeFi.
Hmm.
There should be representatives from law enforcement, judiciary as well, so that
Hmm.
whenever a case gets logged into that system, all these stakeholders are right there on the platform, and the case could be the proper person could be assigned to that case, and there could be some visible uh, updates that are being given to the victim, so that a
Hmm.
lot of harassment is removed from the entire process.
Hmm. I completely forgot this earlier. I completely forgot to mention this earlier, but like, can you just walk me through like what your typical process is from like starting an
Mhm.
investigation till the end? Because I think there's a couple points I want to add in
Sure.
about like how like certain monitorings with like certain exchanges.
Mhm. Okay, so when we start a dialogue with a victim, first of all, I listen to what happened, a raw summary from them to understand and make my assessment of the situation. Because a lot of time, a victim would think that I invested my funds on this platform, and now they are not just they have frozen my funds. They At this point they are not even actually aware that it was a scam. They just approached
Mm-hmm.
us to help with unfreezing the funds, but they don't understand that the funds have been transferred from those addresses long ago. So
Mm-hmm.
this raw summary basically helps us to assess the situation. After that, we compile the evidence in our own format. We prepare a pre-investigation graph. We check that visualization to see what all addresses were involved in the scam. We mark all
Mm-hmm.
those addresses in all the tools that we use. We mark them on chain as well, and if we
Mm-hmm.
find that there are any funds, any residual funds, then we place alerts on those addresses as well.
Yep.
After that point, we see, after investigating if the funds went to a service, DeFi or CeFi, or if the funds are still in transit. Accordingly, we proceed. If the funds went to a service, we get in touch with the exchange. We tell them that a deposit address at your exchange received stolen funds, and we request them to clarify if the funds are still present or not. If the funds are still
Mm-hmm.
present, we share a copy of the police report. That is why I earlier said that police report is very important. If you have it,
Right.
the exchanges tend to be more cooperative with you. So provide that report to the exchanges, and in most of the cases, they are willing to grant a temporary hold on that account,
Yeah,
probably
that's what I was gonna say
2
next.
hours, right? But it's by all means, it's not a permanent freeze. Uh, it is
Hmm.
a temporary freeze. It depends upon the exchange for how long they are going to block the funds for. And in that
Hmm.
time, it is very crucial to bring a law enforcement request, an official freezing request. Uh,
Hmm.
the law enforcement that needs to be sent to the exchange. And once that is provided, then your funds are permanently frozen in the exchange's account. After that,
Yep.
we have discussions with the law enforcement. We walk them through our reports. We explain to them in the best manner possible of how we reached to this conclusion and how the exchange also conducted their investigation, and they also agree with us. That's why they have
Hmm.
blocked the funds temporarily. And we tell them that the situation is crucial, that they need to act quickly and send an email
Hmm.
to request freezing of funds. So this is
Yep.
how the entire process works on our side. Interesting, very interested to know how you guys do it. If you guys do anything differently.
Hmm. So we actually do something very similar too. Like you said, there's the initial investigations, and then once like a client like is on board, and we like obviously tell them like all what their current situation is like and how likely it is, because there are cases where it's like it's very unlikely that we'll be able to like if the funds were sent into like Wasabi Mix or if you're just sending like one Bitcoin in, and then it's almost virtually impossible to track, and then like what it's the amount too is like oh it's really not worth it. We don't want to like just we don't want to just like take every case because it just doesn't make any sense. It's bad for our reputation
Mhm.
too. um but essentially like I think the hardest well when it comes to the tracking part, the hardest part is like even though we know there's like for the people that's like just joining us, like there are EOA accounts. These are accounts that's like not belonging to any
Mhm.
exchange. What we want to do is we want to keep monitoring it until it actually hits an exchange. Then we will reach out to the exchanges. Like we also have partnership with like a couple exchanges too, where we can like, hey, please be on the lookout for this address. If you see any funds coming in from this address, please freeze it immediately.
Mhm.
But they have to understand that there are times where like hackers, what they do is they just keep transferring it from one wallet to another, and eventually like something like a risk score that we assign to the address, the maybe after like 5 or 10 hops,
Mhm.
those scores get lower, and because the exchanges sometimes they're not up to date with this information,
Mhm.
when the funds get in, they will like quickly swap it for something like Monero or something where it's like virtually impossible to track, and they was like withdraw it,
Mhm.
because all it takes is really like what within like 20 minutes they can move the funds in and out, and then by that time if you're not monitoring it closely and if you're not like reaching out to the exchange fast enough, like the funds are already gone.
Mhm.
And I think that's like another that's probably like the most annoying part with like the tracking,
Yeah.
just because sometimes the exchanges don't reply fast enough. And people's like, oh, like, well, you have their personal information. But a lot of times, the personal information, like, you can go on a black market and buy someone's like fake ID from somewhere in Indonesia for like five
Yeah.
dollars. So a lot of information are fake anyway.
Yeah, I've seen KYC information being sold in Telegram groups for $5 or $10.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. So I have to ask, what has been your most interesting case so far?
I think there are a couple cases where we were actually able to get the funds recovered without law enforcement, and it was just it's like it's a matter of like luck as well as uh, I guess like hard work, like thanks to a lot of our investigators. So essentially what they did is like they found the
Mhm.
hacker, essentially they made a mistake. They like for one of these transactions they left their IP address. They didn't change it. They use like a VPN or like a hosting service. So then we were actually able to like reach out to them, like reach out via email, and then they were like negotiating. But essentially, we told like, hey, like we know where you are, and we know we're like close with the jurisdiction there,
Mhm.
so you probably want to just like return the funds, like because you see a lot of these projects now where like they, I don't want to say like they don't like value security, but like a lot of people are more reactive than proactive. So like they don't do anything until something happens. But when something happens, it's too late already. But in this situation, they did like, hey, like we'll offer you like 10%.
Yeah.
That's like kind of like the norm
Yeah.
now. Oh, as a kind of like a bug bounty,
Yeah, a white hat bounty.
right? Where it was just like way cheaper to just, hey, why don't you just get like an actual like more secure security audit?
Yeah.
Um, like it would have saved you more headaches. Because people have to understand when it comes to like security audits, like I tell them it's kind of like an annual checkup. Yeah, it's like you were good last year, but then this year there's new upgrades, there's new like you added new features. So just because you were good last year doesn't mean you're good this year. And especially if you plan on launching something new, you definitely want to get it tested before you just launch it. There's how many cases where we've seen like people, projects get hacked because they launch a new
Yeah.
service.
True. I mean, it's happening way too much since the
Mm-hmm.
last 2 years. All I keep hearing about is DeFi hacks. I believe one protocol got hacked today as well.
I know.
Well,
It never ends. Remember, we were talking about this. Like, the work will never be out of business. The work is just it's nonstop.
Yeah, I mean it's non-stop, and I keep hearing this argument that crypto is just about scam, and we should make it illegal so that these scams cannot happen. I really don't understand this argument at all. I mean, if you compare it with fiat, crypto is what,
Hmm.
probably 5% of the total fiat in circulation or less, right?
Less.
So by that argument, the scams, the total amount of scams happening, the total amount of thefts happening in fiats would be much more. So will you ever say, let's take fiat out of the picture? Let's stop using currency at all. Let's go back to the barter system.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes, I will trade you
my kidney
my
for an
food for.
iPhone 15.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's crazy because like it's they don't the technology is amazing. I love the tech, but people I think people just don't understand it enough. They think like, oh, it's as easy as like if something happened to their bank account, they can call the bank and then the bank just reverse the transaction. No, it doesn't work like
Yeah.
that. This is your funds. You have to treat it like, oh, it's like
Hmm.
cash. You're not gonna leave your cash laying around when you go out. Like you're not just gonna. Like it just doesn't make any
Hmm.
sense. And I think that's where it's like if we can create better educational material,
I think,
like teach
yeah.
people how to actually navigate it.
I mean, not only. I think it would have to be a mix of a lot of things. In my experience, what I've understood after I've investigated over 500 cases by now, and so
Mm-hmm.
I've realized is that a fair amount of those cases had elderly victims,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and it was,
All these social
yeah, it
things.
was mind blowing that they lost their entire life savings. They lost millions
Mm-hmm.
of dollars. I came across some victims who didn't even know how to use WhatsApp, and they were handling crypto.
That's crazy.
And it's mind boggling, and a lot of that could have been avoided if a
Mm-hmm.
bank that they were using had proper AML measures in place. If somebody
Yeah.
who's retired, who's above the age of 50 or 60, and if you suddenly see, as a bank, you suddenly see them making deposits or transferring funds to a new entity or to a new individual suddenly and regularly, then it should have been flagged in your AML system. Why was it not flagged?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So I think
That's very true.
once
It's like
once those
sorry, go ahead.
norms become more tight, I think UK is already doing something like that in that regard by limiting the transaction amount for such individuals to $1,000 or $500 at a
Mm.
time. So I think these sort of measures, they need to be in place. These are not related to crypto crimes. These are norms that should come in from an AML point of view. If you
Hmm.
have these better measures, then I think it will discourage a lot of individuals from getting involved in these activities. It will become much
Right.
more difficult. If now you understand you can easily scam an elderly for $1 million, somebody who doesn't even know how to use WhatsApp, then what
Mm.
can that person actually how can that person actually come behind you? How can he pursue the funds? So as a scammer, you have that motivation that he's
Yeah.
probably an easy target for me. Let's target him. But if the AML measures make it significantly more difficult, then I think we will have a significant reduction, at least in the elderly related crimes.
Yeah. Definitely. I think that's like another thing where it's like that crypto exchanges can do to help. Like it's or especially if you're new, if you don't know what to use, how to use WhatsApp, definitely I think it's probably safer for you to just leave your funds on an exchange. At least you have somebody watching over them instead of just like you leaving it somewhere. Um, yeah, man. A lot of it, I think it really comes down to just education, education, education. That's what we do at like SlowMist too. Like what our CEO, that he wrote a book called the Dark Forest of blockchain. It just talks about like all the scams that's currently happening. Talk about like how you should like protect your funds, like all the different methods, like software wallets, hardware wallets, and then like how to keep your private key safe. But a lot of times people come in, they're like, "Oh, I just want to make a quick buck and then like get out," because they hear the
Yeah,
stories of like how good it is, but they don't like realize that how easy it is to get hacked
yeah.
too.
I mean, it's quite comparable to handling fiat. You just like you're handling your fiat with care, with caution. That's how you should handle your crypto as well.
Hmm.
People
Exactly.
somehow become very careless when it comes to crypto. I don't know why,
Hmm.
but I think they more than anything else, they need to act with common sense. Same
Yeah,
common sense they keep while they handle their fiat.
I know. Oh wow. So I can't time how fast. If anybody want to have any questions or like just make some comments, you can request it now, and then we'll just continue to talk about like what kind of like ideas we have to kind of like make this community safer, make it easier for like for exchanges, for us to reach out to exchanges, and for them to actually do something when we reach out. Because that's another issue we had too. Like a lot of times we reach out to these exchanges, and then like they don't really get back to us, even though we provide them with all the information. They're like, "Oh, okay, cool," and then just completely forget about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that all the stakeholders involved, I don't think that, there's anybody who doesn't want to help, you know.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just that currently the situation uh, is so complicated that, nobody wants to make a wrong decision. Nobody wants to take a wrong step. And that's
Hmm.
why that discourages them from acting altogether.
Yeah, because a lot of times like we have like a couple exchanges that like because we built a relationship with them that like they have that trust. They know like, oh, we're not just going there to block some like random funds. But at the end of the day, like to get those, they can freeze it. But at the end of the day, to get those funds back, they still need like the next step, which is the law enforcement step, which is something like we there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that area too.
Yeah, I mean, we are part of a group together, SlowMist and AMLBot, and I think uh, more such groups are required, and these groups also they also need to evolve. Right now
Yeah.
it's like all the stakeholders, they are willing participants, but it does not they do not have any obligation to help each other. So
Right.
so a
Right.
lot of times they'll just say, we are not gonna do anything. So I think that needs to change. We respect exchanges, we respect law enforcement, but I think in return they also need to respect the sort of work that we are doing, because at the end
Hmm.
of the day, we are also making them look better. If if
Exactly.
we help. Just a sec. There's some bad reception on my end.
No worries. Yeah. Also, if anybody have any questions, feel free to request it. This is open floor right now.
Hello, could you
Hello.
hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Hello, I have two questions.
Hmm.
As a user, I'm a long-time user of Arkham Intelligence and started to try MistTrack yesterday. What do you think? Um, which advantages and disadvantages of MistTrack compared to Arkham?
Oh, Arkham. Hello.
Hello.
ARKHAM.
Yeah, Arkham.
Arkham.
Yeah. So for Arkham, me personally, I realize like for Arkham, it's really more for like somebody who's been in the industry a little bit longer, just because it can be a lot like a little overwhelming when like a new user comes on or like a new victim comes on, and it just because there's a lot of information. Like for our program, it's simply hey plug in an address and then you see everything. Arkham is I think it's a little bit more yeah it's a little bit more like visually it's a little bit more complex for someone to take in. Sorry, AJ, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you have to first understand that all the tools they are targeted towards different users. Different
Hmm.
users with different skill sets. So you have various tools like Arkham, Nansen, Maltego, and you just have to assess what your skill level currently is and which tool works better according to that.
Yeah, because I think that's another difference too. Like Nansen is a blockchain analytics tool.
Yeah,
I think Arkham is more like a blockchain analytics too. They don't really deal like like as much towards blockchain investigations.
right.
Because it's the same thing with Nansen. Like they provide you more details about like kind of like what kind of smart contracts and whatnot. Yeah, I think like you said, the tools are just built differently.
Yeah, and all of them have their own, unique attributes. So it's not like one is better and the other is not better. I would always say that, every tool has something good that you can use. So as an investigation agency, it is very difficult to actually only rely upon one tool. You'll always have to use multiple tools.
Yeah, like sometimes we have like Asia mentioned earlier, we have a lot of the information on exchanges that's based in Asia. Well,
Yeah,
like there's also you talking about like every country has their own exchange, and it's impossible for you to get all them. And there's new exchanges being created each day.
every day. Yeah, it's crazy. No
Hmm.
one tool can label all the services on their tool. Maybe because their team is growing, but so are the exchanges, so are the services. Every day hundreds of new services come into being. How are you going to label all of them you know
Yep. Yep. Go ahead, Vasley. You got the floor.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for the amazing insights. It's Vasily from AMLBot. I was just wanted to comment on the law enforcement aspect because, as you mentioned it before, it's one of the key aspects during the investigation process. Do you hear me well? Is it
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. We can hear
nice?
you.
Because I'm outside. Yeah, yeah. And so what I was gonna say is that
We are not able to
Hello.
hear you, Vasily. I
because
think
they
we lost you.
understand that with the crypto adoption, they will have more.
Hey, Vasley.
Yep.
Do you mind just starting over? Like you kind of got cut out.
Is it better now?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is, but we are losing your voice, on and off. It's on and off.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think there is a problem with my mic, but Um, can you hear me, guys, now?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah,
better
yeah, we
now.
can.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying about the law enforcement that we see, at least at the MLBot, from the discussions that we have with them, that they want to find a way to investigate crypto cases, but they
Mm-hmm.
simply don't have the tools available to them, or they don't know how to use them. So I think there is a
Mm-hmm.
huge gap that maybe we can help them to achieve is to educate them and to get them familiar with our tools. Because
Right.
usually only like the upper upper agencies like FBI have an access to all of the tools like chain analysis, for example. So there is like a
Mm-hmm.
very big kind of like blue ocean that should be filled, and I think that can be
Yeah.
like a key to many of the investigations that will happen during the year. So
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's something like we can definitely work on. Just helping out with like start. I think like starting small, like starting with our local agencies, and just like, hey, we love to come in, just like teach you guys about at least like teach you guys about crypto, and even like maybe like offer them like a couple keys that they can like couple accounts they can use to access our platform. Because at the end of the day, like the more they know, the easier it is for them to kind of like help us too. And then if they can help us, they can help the victims, and then that's I think that's like the best way to actually grow this community because a lot of people are going to get discouraged if things like this keep happening like and there's no fix because
Right.
then you can't really grow a community.
Absolutely. And you know what I think? I think that every report that we send to a police station, I think every report is marketing material. It's actually a calling card for us. It's an opportunity for us to get in touch with the law enforcement officer and to help him walk him through the entire investigation that we did. And we should also encourage them to use our tool and conduct the same investigation with us, so that they
Mm-hmm.
also understand how we reached to that conclusion, so that they are also more confident while
Mm-hmm.
sending those subpoenas to the exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
And if the exchanges poses any question, that they can also probably take care of those questions. But we are anyways always there to assist the clients and the law enforcement with any sort
Mm-hmm.
of queries.
Yeah, but sometimes they don't want our help. Like I said earlier, when I gave them like a whole report, everything showing like, hey, this is where the funds went with like visuals from like our platform, and then they came back. They're like, oh no, the funds are over here. I was like, what are you guys looking at? It's just they're just completely clueless.
Yeah, I mean, the more we think about it, we have to understand that it's at the end of the day, it's a subset of all the cases that they have. For
Mm-hmm.
them, it's probably like, why should I learn about crypto? There are 99 other things for me to do. Even if I'm not good at this one thing, it won't make
Mm-hmm.
much of a difference. So, there would have to be specialized units, specialized law enforcement professionals who are crypto educated, and more than education, they need to have some interest in the space.
Right, right, right.
It is not a very simple and easy thing to get into. Blockchain investigations, sure, you can use a tool and just enter it into the tool and make a visualization. But how would you understand that the address you're dealing with is probably not a private wallet? It could actually be a
Mhm.
bridge, it could actually be a DeFi service, it could actually be
Right.
an unidentified exchange. That is where your experience as an investigator, your learnings as somebody who has been in the space for a couple of years, all of those learnings come into play.
Mhm.
In my previous company, I once saw that there was a $1 million plus case, and my predecessor in that company, he actually, instead of tracing through the smart contract, he
Mhm.
traced the smart contract itself.
Oh wow, nice.
So, so he identified, because it was a USDT smart contract. So
Mhm.
obviously, it interacted with like 200 services. And in
Right.
his report, he identified all those services from where
Hmm.
KYC information could be obtained.
Wow, that's dedication. Sometimes you gotta love the work too. Like
Yeah.
there are a couple of times where I'm just like, you open up a case and you just look at it like, oh my god, this is gonna be a hard one.
Yeah, I mean, I told you that I'm a little bit addicted to investigations, because
Hmm.
every case is not just a case, it's a story. And it's sort of a puzzle in itself. Sometimes you
Right.
solve it, it's like a Rubik's Cube. Sometimes you are able to do it in 10 minutes. And sometimes, even 10 days is not enough. We have
Yeah.
cases, you obviously would know which case I'm talking about, but we have cases which we have been investigating for the past 3 months, and we don't know the breakthrough could actually come tomorrow itself, or it could not come in next 3 months also.
Yeah.
So every day it's a different challenge for us to tackle. So that's
Yep.
what I really love about blockchain investigations.
Hmm. I think for me at least, that's like the most frustrating thing when it comes to investigation. It's not like there's nothing like, it's like things are out of our power. Like even though, hey, we know the funds are here, but like law enforcement's like, no, we don't care. We're not doing anything.
Yeah, my experience has been, bittersweet. I've had bad experience with law enforcement, but I've had some
Mhm.
really good experiences as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. That's like the case with anything.
Yeah, yeah. So I
And
think,
It's just, yeah, it's
if
just
I may, I
frustrating.
think also to what you just said, that law enforcement is just, for example, you show them that the funds are somewhere and that they don't do anything. I think there is also a problem that they don't kind of trust the data. So they
Hmm.
say, how do we know that your tool is correct and showing the right
Right.
data?
Right.
Because there is no unified standard. And we actually also uh, get this question a lot, especially from the people that are not too much acquaintance with blockchain investigations. They ask this question. So I was just curious, like, what are your thoughts on this? And you think there will be ever like a one unified database that may be made by government or someone?
I think,
I don't think.
sorry, please carry on.
Oh yeah. I personally don't think that's actually possible. Maybe at the lowest level, just because um there's different jurisdictions, different laws. But I want to, like, for me at least, I want it to be in a situation where it's like, hey, all these like crypto cases are just like another theft case to them, where it's like, hey, we can provide the information, you can verify it, but like you said, they have to know how to verify it. Because right now, I think they just have completely no clue, or at least most of them have no clue how it works.
Right.
Um, Whereas like the
That's true.
information is there, like we can teach you, we don't mind teaching you. It's just like they just
A
sometimes they
lot of
just help.
cases are getting closed just because they don't understand how blockchain works, so how like exchanges operate. So
Hmm.
we saw in our practice like really very like little things that they don't understand, and they close the case because of that. So I
Yeah.
think like the only way is to educate and to show them the way forward.
Yeah, I think there is, a need for a public-private partnership. There needs to be a common platform wherein all the tool companies like ourselves, like SlowMist, they can all become stakeholders and actually
Hmm.
feed data to the government, and the
Yeah.
government can, share data as well. We understand that in some cases, like terrorist financing, etc., they might not be that willing to share data about active investigations, but at least for many other addresses, they should be more open and willing to share the data. I think it would make the entire ecosystem better, and it will help
Right.
in closing success. I'm not saying just closing, because it's always easy to close a case, but it will
Hmm.
actually be easier to conclude those cases positively, and
Hmm.
make a positive impact on the victim's life.
Yeah. I think it would be cool, like if we can do like some kind of like a, like the police, they have like a national database system,
Yeah.
where it's like they can get access to like certain people's like certain information. I think if we can do something similar with like exchanges where we like partner with them, obviously like we go through like a verification system to make sure like, hey, the people that's like requesting this information, like these are all legitimate like um things. Because then like if we can get like once let's say the funds are deposited to exchange but they weren't able to freeze it, they can let us know where it was sent next so we can like go to the next exchange and tell them, hey, please freeze this.
Yeah.
Because now the process is like to get any of that information, you have to go through law enforcement, and if law enforcement takes a month, the money is long gone.
Yeah. And then they say the money is already gone.
Yeah.
You
Like,
know, this conversation actually uh, gives me this another idea that a lot of times, we see that the KYC information that we get back from the exchange belong to somebody from a third world country who in
mm-hmm.
most of the cases is actually not even aware that his KYC has been used for this purpose. So
Right.
what actually happens after that, I have no clue, because essentially what should happen is that all there should be some centralized database where that KYC should be flagged, so that
Mm-hmm.
whenever another account is being opened at another exchange with that KYC, it should immediately be flagged.
Yes.
It should
That's
immediately be blocked. We understand that you should not prosecute whoever owns that KYC. He might not be the perpetrator, but at
mm-hmm.
least it would discourage uh, whoever individual or any entity with multiple perpetrators is trying to use that KYC to open multiple
Mm-hmm.
accounts and scam a lot of people. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that's happening right now.
Yeah. Because a lot of times I'm like sometimes you get the information, like we will pass it on to our clients, and they're like, "Oh, why can't the police go after them?" I was like, "Do you really think this like 50-year-old from somewhere middle of nowhere in like Indonesia and up in like the mountains, they really hacked your account for $8 million?" Like that's not. It's not. This is obviously like a fake account.
Yeah. Yeah, but at least that KYC should be flagged. Right
Yes.
now it's not being flagged.
Yep. That comes back to like just sharing information. You gotta like, for us, like me and you, like obviously like, we worked on a couple cases together where it's like, or like you request information and
Yeah.
we'll provide it. Like a lot of times it's like all these they don't talk to each other, and
Yeah.
they like we need some kind of group where like there's actually like where involvement where like the parties wants to be involved because they want to make this place a safer place for
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, I think this has been a learning process for me as well. When I started in this space, I also used to think that, if I know something, why should I share it with somebody else? This is
Mm-hmm.
something I gained from, hard work. But I think
Mm-hmm.
the truth is quite opposite to this. We
Yeah.
need more partnerships. We
Mm-hmm.
need, for an open system, we need more players like us, collaborating with each other, because at the end of the day, it's going to help more people.
Right.
It's
I
going
think
to help solve more cases, and that's good for everybody, no matter which regard
exactly.
you are talking to. But it helps a lot of helping a lot of people. It helps the entire ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. We got Bit Mesa. Go ahead, Bit Mesa. You got the floor. I'll just give him a second.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
So I have another question. I would like to ask: do you have support for tracking of specific token through contract address, maybe including NFT? I need this aspect of functions very, very much, because Arkham and another other tracking on-chain tracking tools doesn't provide this kind of functions.
Mhm.
And NFTs could also be very valuable assets for crypto user or wallet owner, and maybe tracking NFTs could also be a useful function of MistTrack.
Yeah. So like right now we actually have partners with like NFT Scan where essentially, if you want to track an NFT, you can like track where it was sold and like who kept the funds and whatnot. And then you would just kind of like come back to our platform and then like type in the address that way. That's something like we could look into the future. Like right now, we pretty much are able to track like all the major tokens on each specific individual like single smart contracts. We're not there yet. That's where I was like, hey, it might be easier. Like, there's a difference between crypto investigations and then like crypto analytics. Like those are more like the Nansen, like the Arkham stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And then go ahead, Bimessa. You got a question?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, this is Bitmesa. I just want to make a contribution.
Sure.
Prior to 2016, Bitcoin was able to broadcast any known issue. If there's a stolen token or stuff, there was a function called the alert key, and future upgrades, that particular functionality was removed. I think it may be one of the efforts that this compliance community can bring back is to enforce the reintegration of the alert key into Bitcoin, for instance, being the major crypto that most persons transact with. So with the alert key, miners or even users can be made to know that this coin is having so and so issue. Maybe it has been stolen or it has been used for some kind of fraudulent activity. So you will not want to ask. Once you see that kind of crypto, you may not want to accept it from the user, or some miners may even have the ability to lock it in a particular transaction where it cannot be moved. So that's just my contribution. I think maybe you guys can look towards that direction. But thinking that maybe onboarding more exchanges, I doubt if that is going to be a solution long term, owing to the fact that crypto's original nature is one where it should exist on peer-to-peer basis. So exchanges may do their best, but I think it may not last long. I think it should be on chain.
Right now, we're just trying to get people to kind of like not fall for scams. We got to think more proactively instead of like reactively. Yeah, you got anything you want to? Anybody else? Any questions? Or AJ, you want to add anything? Because I think we're kind of like near the end of yeah, I didn't even know it's been like an hour and a half already.
No. I think you've covered everything. But yes, I would say that a lot of times, if a new token is involved in any malicious activity, you can actually go on the Explorer, and a lot of times the Explorer will have a pop-up message that this token was involved in malicious activity, and you should be careful while interacting with it. So whenever dealing with any new token or an unknown token, it is always advisable to check what the Explorer has to say.
Yep. Oh, the same thing. Like for us, like our platform, it's like if you just type in the address, it also gives you like a risk score.
Yeah.
And then like the risk score is all depends on like, hey, like the type of interactions they had.
Yeah.
Like if they were associated with any like malicious funds. So then that way you can know like, hey, do you really want to interact with this address?
Yeah, and we also offer a wallet checker tool whenever you are dealing with any new address which you don't know who owns that address, or you can just go on to the wallet checker tool of AMLBot and you can check if that address, what the risk score of that address is, if in past it has been involved in any sort of malicious activity. It could be receiving funds from any sanctioned entity. It could be being involved in a scam or receiving stolen funds. Or if you see risk exposure related to any of these, then I would say that do not interact with that address. Run as far as possible from these addresses.
Yeah. Okay. I think we covered pretty much everything we wanted to cover. So like, obviously we're near the end of our session. If there's no other questions, I think we're probably gonna close this out for the day.
Yeah, it was a great conversation, and looking forward to have many more sessions with SlowMist going forward.
Yeah, I think we should do a couple of sessions where we do like live like investigations.
Yeah, we should definitely do it for some of the DeFi hacks at least. There is
Yeah, definitely.
now
For
a
sure.
new DeFi hack every day.
There's too many.
Too
Make
much.
it stop.
Yeah.
Okay. Vasily, is there anything you want to say?
I think it was a great session. We should definitely do more of those, and I think we can conclude that investigation is an art, and,
Definitely.
And we are the
and we need to master it. So thank you very much, guys.
All right. Thank you guys again for coming.
Thank you, Gian. Thank you, Vasily. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. Have a great day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Have a good week, guys. Bye bye.